Cyn, the cute little murder robot who is seemingly responsible for everything in murder drones. She rocks that maid outfit like a yandere chasing after revenge senpai, hoping it notices her. She can be incredibly charming and disarming, literally. Her regular body appears to be malfunctioning and falling apart, and even her godlike eldritch form cannot pick up a simple scalpel and use it. While she can come across as caring and sincere, Cyn shows a disturbing lack of empathy and takes great pleasure in harming others. Her reckless disregard for life and even respect for small creatures and inanimate objects are wonderful hallmarks of a psychopath. And yet, after all the reveals in episode 5 and everything from previous episodes falling into place, we still have to ask ourselves, do we really understand Cyn? Do we honestly know who she is? And even, what is Cyn's endgame in all of this? How does Absolute Solver play a role in what she's doing? Is Cyn just insane, evil, a brutal freedom fighter, or something else entirely? And did she even care for N? In many ways, Cyn is crucial, and maybe even the keystone, to figuring out everything that is happening in the main story of Murder Drones. Unfortunately, we're still left in the dark about, well, quite a bit. So in today's video, it is my aim to piece together everything that we have so far about Cyn in order to better understand who this little murder drone is. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. Now, I'm not going to bury the lead here. I'll be honest, after going over all the evidence and pondering everything that I've watched, there are 3 possible answers for who Cyn is and what is going on with her. Each answer has its own merits and helps place a lot of what we've seen into context. However, they're all slightly contradictory and don't completely fill out the entire picture. I'm just being honest here by saying this, but I think you'll enjoy what I have to present to you, and I'll leave it to everyone to pass judgment on my 3 Cyn theories in the comments. So, without any further ado, here are the 3 possibilities for what is going on with Cyn. Number 1, Cyn is a distraught, broken drone using Absolute Solver to get revenge on humanity for throwing her away. Option number 2, Cyn is just a pawn in a much larger game, one being played by the creator of Absolute Solver. And option number 3, Cyn is a literal demon seeking to destroy absolutely everything.
Giggle. I am so naughty.
Alright, starting with option 1, let's talk about what we see at face value. This is the face value theory. That Cyn is nothing more than a vengeance-fueled drone who is out to destroy humanity. At the beginning of episode 5, we see Cyn abandoned at the bottom of a massive corpse hill, broken and suffering. Her screen flashes with a communication involving Absolute Solver, as if she is accessing it and rebooting. This would coincide nicely with what we can learn from the opening when we see the VHS clip about zombie drones and the corruption of their operating systems. And quick side note, thank you to the hundreds of you viewers out there who educated me on my last blunder. You guys are awesome. What this would mean is that embedded in every worker drone is a coding, a program that could allow them to access Absolute Solver, a strain of power and corruption that can be accessed when a drone's OS becomes rebooted and rejected. So, from this perspective, it makes sense that Cyn would lash out when Tessa's parents threatened to throw out all the broken down drones in the library. She was rescued from a crushing hell where she was abandoned and broken. She was rescued by Tessa. She is willing, therefore, to keep this one human safe while eliminating all the other greedy, unkind humans who she sees as the oppressors of the other drones, who use them as expendable resources and slaves. And by exploring her powers via Absolute Solver, Cyn has gone more rogue and more insane, which led her to killing and experimenting on her fellow worker drones like N and V. Despite having a justifiable cause to fight the humans, Cyn's attitude towards her fellow drones has begun to deteriorate until she became little more than a monster. Well, scratch that. She's a creature with a downright god complex.
I'm good. Better than good. I am God!
The solver of the absolute fabric, the void, the exponential end.
Now, under this interpretation of events based on what we've seen, we're still left with a lot of questions. Namely, how did Cyn end up on Copper 9? Was her coming to the planet what Nori and her fellow scientists foresaw that made them freak out? Was Cyn responsible for destroying the planet's core? Perhaps she hoped that by collapsing the planet's core, she would create like a miniature supernova, which could have resulted in a black hole. I mean, if we're going by anime logic here, that could technically happen. And that's kind of the stuff that we've seen flashing in N's memories regarding the singularity. However, we just don't know. Things are kind of falling into place here when we come from this perspective. It definitely might look like Absolute Solver is the way to break a constant cycle of oppression and destruction, which is maybe why she calls herself the solver of the absolute fabric, and that she's going to bring about this resolution to the absolute oppression that humanity has placed upon all of its creations. That could potentially be the case. It would fit what we see in Nori's closet of kooky insane stuff, but is that really the answer, especially when we look closer at the pictures of all the different monsters that we see out there that's haunting Nori's dreams? I don't know. Like I said, we're left with a lot of questions. But this way of seeing Cyn is a tempting one because it's very easy to go with, and if you side with the drones against humanity, it fits. It fits this poor, broken drone who is going out against the main oppressor. It gives her character a little bit of sympathy, humanizing this vile monster that she's become. Going down this route also, like I said, just keeps the story simple, and especially since we only have 3 episodes left to go. Now, when we look at option number 2, Cyn is just a pawn of the real puppet master behind Absolute Solver. Okay, I get that what I'm about to say right here sounds like it flies in the face of everything that we can see and hear in episodes 2 and 5, but clearly there's some things that we can dig into. Cyn is the eldritch abomination that transformed Jay's corpse, and she is the one in both Heartbeat and Home that says that she is using others as her puppets. And we do see her taking over all the drones at the gala and using them to kill the guests. However, there are a few things that support this puppet master theory. Again, jumping to the very beginning of the episode Home, we see this message flash across Cyn's screen, reading, "Hello, smiley face. I see you, some stuff is missing." And then at the end it probably says hopeful or sad. "I see you are inoperable. I see we could, TRL," and there's some stuff missing, "edited for you. I will not discard you. Absolute Solver, Axis, yes or no?" This is more than a blink and you miss it kind of a moment. This is a there's only 2 legible frames kind of a moment that we see right here. And immediately when I slowed things down and looked at this particular moment, it got me thinking. Remember back in the first episode how Uzi is seen getting hacked by someone wielding Absolute Solver? This is absolutely essential to note because unlike the conversation flashing across Cyn's screen, the changes forced onto Uzi are completely against her will. This muddles the obvious that we see on the screen and could very well suggest that someone else besides Cyn is working to take over the drones. Yes, Cyn tells Uzi that she is their puppet, and that's where things, like I said, get interesting. Cyn switches between referring to herself in the singular and in the plural. In the first option, we could easily rule this as Cyn just going insane. But if we think about it a little bit more and consider that despite being hacked, no one is yet controlling Uzi like a puppet, it opens the door for a third party who's playing a much more complicated, long game. Cyn would probably love to control Uzi, just like how she manipulated all the other drones at the Elliot estate, but she doesn't. As the administrator to N and V, Cyn actively works to keep their brains scrambled and prevent them from remembering their past, but nothing more than that from what we've seen. While we should definitely call into question the past events that we see playing out in episode 5, we can reasonably assert that Cyn can indeed possess other drones and use them as puppets. Taking control of the disassembly drones and the entire colony would work best into whatever genocidal plans Cyn is cooking up. But she doesn't do that. Why? Because, as this second theory argues, she's just a pawn in someone else's twisted game. This supposed puppet master is playing a way more complex game. Cyn was given a chance to get her revenge against humanity and exert autonomy, but after that, she's simply become the medium through which the puppet master has taken action. When we hop back to the episode Heartbeat, Cyn is working to restore Jay's body and turn her into a massive weapon. There's this strange heart device that Cyn possesses, and we know that Cyn has at least one other body roaming the planet. That's a busy girl right there. Good on you, Cyn. But in this episode, she largely refers to herself in the plural. And when we compare Cyn's personality in Heartbeat to what we see in episode 5, Home, she's far more robotic and monotone in the present, almost as if she's lost all the spunk and individuality she once possessed. When we zoom back and view the larger picture to the entire plot, it's easier to see how someone else could be behind Absolute Solver. I highly doubt that J.C. Jensen, in space, let their programmers put a god program into their robots. Robots whose operating systems could deteriorate and cause them to go rogue. Yeah, that would be stupid. It's very likely instead that it was a program secretly inserted into the worker drones and only later discovered by the company. Perhaps with the slaughter of the Elliot Gala? We don't really yet know. But just like with our first option to understand Cyn, it doesn't answer everything. And it's largely guesswork to determine a puppet master aside from Cyn, other than that Absolute Solver is a very proactive program, and it's highly unlikely that it's just some AI program that's gone rogue that became a fatalistic collection of drone consciousnesses. I could see some viewers going down that particular theory, but again, it would beg the question, why don't they just take over all the drones? A third party interfering with everything and pulling the strings for whatever their own crazy scheme is would help to make sense of these inconsistencies, but I cannot really figure out to what end. By now, I hope you appreciate why I am presenting 3 possibilities for what is happening with Cyn, because it's hard to 100% pin down what is going on just based on what we see, and that leads us to the craziest and potentially most fun option for how we can interpret what is going on with our cute original murder drone.
Perhaps you'd like to attend the gala with me. Light sip. Climbing. Crisscross applesauce. Am I not wanted? And shuffle, 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 shuffle. The flesh demands invitation.
Did that little antichrist...
Quite simply, Cyn is a demon. When Tessa rebuilt the worker drones, she collected from the dump, but she did more than just repair them. She refitted them with human bits, including a human soul. Only with Cyn, something went very, very wrong. Okay, before you click away, let me make a case for this particular interpretation of Cyn. In Tessa's room, we see loads of magic circles everywhere. We also get a specific shot not only highlighting these spooky summoning circles and other magic, but Tessa also has stuff that looks like potion ingredients and chunks of humans. And when we think about it, Tessa laments to Jay that she only interacts with drones. She's scared of meeting other humans, but she's not running away from it. She craves the chance to interact with other humans like herself. She wants to have friends and love, which her parents are obviously not providing. So why not make some humans from hollow drones and stuffing them with human souls and giving them far more human appearances? Now, I already hear the objection that Uzi and her colony are full of drones with their own unique and individual personalities and human traits. So there's no way that Cyn can have a spirit in her unless the humans did the same kind of weird magic for every drone on Copper 9. And that would be true to a certain extent. That humanity that Uzi and her fellow worker drones have is programmed into them. It's something that they've learned and developed over time, according to Liam Vickers. But Tessa's robots are not just these usual worker drone individuals. They seem broken, confused to a certain extent, different in a peculiar way that just doesn't jive with the other drones that we've seen. They're far more human and complex than we've given them credit for. And here's the thing, we see that drones undeniably have a connection between each other. Absolute Solver is a program embedded in the drones. This is something that we're seeing far more evidence for, and it could potentially be a hive mind link, perfect for a demon to hijack and use. Tessa's room is full of these summoning circles, like I've pointed out, which would be used to bring spirits and contain them within a perfect circle, and bend them to Tessa's will. But something went wrong with Cyn. Cyn is constantly depicted as a monster, one with access to Absolute Solver. With a demon in the system, a lot of things start falling into place. For one, the eldritch form that the other drones take on is that of a demon, a fallen angel, complete with tattered wings of all things. Nori and her cohorts were plagued by visions of demonic monsters descending from the sky to consume them all. The Singularity is depicted not just as a black hole, but a ravenous maw drawing all of creation into it, destroying all life. The drones are depicted in Nori's drawing as converting into these demons. Cyn experimented on N and V, transforming them into cruel monsters via these ritualistic forms and rites to become just, again, these beasts. The entire basement scene is reminiscent of Frankenstein and Dracula coming together to have this unholy baby, showing a super visceral way to convert innocent souls into demons, which again take the form of fallen angels once the transformation is complete. And it gets better. The Absolute Solver symbol that we see is another feature of the occult. The triangular symbol that we see flashing across Uzis and dolls and Cyn's screens indicate power and overthrowing one's reliance on God. It is to become God yourself.
I'm good. Better than good. I am God!
When Cyn uses Absolute Solver, she has all the horrifying powers of a demonic deity. She can transform her body, warp the laws of physics, possess others, mutate her thralls, connect minds, destroy, and heal herself. Cyn is essentially a god as signified by the triangle of Absolute Solver. In this particular interpretation, the endgame becomes fantastically twisted. The demon Cyn is seeking the absolute destruction of her own kind and all life to boot. The Singularity is not just a black hole, but her endgame demonic state. And in that godly form, she will end all creation by consuming it. No drone is safe from her, since she can consume them, possess them, haunt them, corrupt them, anything that she desires. And that's what makes the joke land so well in episode 5, despite having
phenomenal cosmic powers!
Cyn still can't pick up and use a scalpel.
Son of a... Come on, Solver of the absolute fabric, get a grip.
This interpretation of Cyn actually makes a ton of sense and promises reveals that will make just even more sense about why the disassembly drones were so human so early on, unlike many of the other worker drones. And being partly demonic themselves with godly powers accessed through Absolute Solver, it becomes easier to make sense of all the rule-breaking things the program can do. It allows Liam also to get super dark with his storytelling and establish really bizarre high stakes for the end game. And it would fit a one-season length story. The biggest problem, though, with this particular interpretation is that it doesn't completely jive with all the technical jargon and clues that have been fed to us. Episode 5 made a big deal about zombie drones and how that all technically works, and Absolute Solver still seems to be like this uber powerful program than just simple magic. As a result, not everything lines up and we're still left with a number of questions. So tell me, what do you think? Is Cyn a deranged robot using a powerful program to accomplish her revenge? Is Cyn just a pawn in a much greater game, played by a third party or puppet master? Or is Cyn a demon, unwittingly summoned by Tessa and using godly occult powers to destroy all creation? Let me know your thoughts and observations in the comments. Again, we don't have all the clues or answers to say definitively one way or another. While I personally subscribe more to the Puppet Master theory, I would love to see Cyn revealed as a legit demon, and it would be great payoff to all the visual clues from Cabin Fever and Home. Now, for a quick bit of writing advice. If you have a mystery-driven plot for your story, you want to tease it out by giving small answers, which then present a new question or series of questions. As opposed to something like Knives Out, which gives you half of the mystery right off the bat, or chasing after a mystery box like everything J.J. Abrams has ever done, going this particular route draws in the audience by presenting something tantalizing, giving them a taste of the true answer, but still misdirecting them with other pieces to the larger mystery. We now know about Cyn, clearing up the question of the Eldritch Beast and Heartbeat, and what V said to Uzi during her transformation in Cabin Fever. But now we're wondering what Cyn's endgame is and how she'll do it. Uzi asked N what the disassembly drones are, and now we have some idea now that we have their backstory, but not the whole truth. And we wanted to know what happened to Uzi's mother after Khan said that he killed her to put her out of her misery, and we know now that she was a scientist cursed with visions of the disassembly drones. But we don't know why or how just yet. We're slowly learning more about Absolute Solver, but with each episode, we're presented with even more of what it does, further complicating our understanding of this god program. In short, we're learning things incrementally, and that's exactly how you write a mystery to drive your plot. You must provide smaller answers which lead to more questions that build up to the great reveal at the end. And that is impressive writing, and it's hard to do. I've been working on my own murder mystery story, and dang, it's hard to write. Now, as we wait for Murder Drones Episode 6, many of you commented on the last video saying that you wanted us to return to the matter of shipping and compare N's relationship to Uzi and N's relationship to V. Alright, so prepare for a deep dive into that. No stone will be left unturned, and I think that we might be surprised for what we can surmise by the end of that. In the meantime, if you would like to support us, liking, commenting, and sharing this video are always appreciated. Subscribing, most definitely, but it would be incredible if you could check out the books that we have published. It would really help us out. Links for them are in the description. But in any case, we are so grateful that you have joined us on this
Hollow spooky snake crab
journey that we call writing. And until the next video,
buddy.
tschüss.